Hello everyone, I'm Dr. M. Welcome to my first attempt to do a podcast. As you can see, I'd like to talk about chapter 3 just a little bit. We only have about 17 minutes and that's all I'm allowed, so let's get started right away. The first thing you'll notice is that we have an equation here that it has one unknown in it. The variable happens to be m this time. It doesn't matter what the letter is. The idea is, how do I separate m so that it's alone? Well, this operation is addition, so the opposite operation will help me to zero it out. So if I subtract 3 from both sides, m will be alone because a positive 3 and you take 3 away is 0, so there's my m. And the end result here is I have two negative numbers. So it's like I borrowed $58 from a friend and I borrowed another $3. How much did I borrow altogether? I borrowed $61. Sorry, it's my first time writing on with a mouse, so it's going to take a little while. So as you can see, the sign of those two numbers stayed the same, and we summed them together, and that's the rule. The sum of two signed numbers that are exactly the same keep the same sign. And in this case, it becomes a bigger number. So it's just like addition. If I had $58 and I had 3 more dollars, how many dollars do I totally have? In that case, I have money to spend. But in this case, I'm in debt, and we don't want to be in debt, do we? So the next step is to look at another set of numbers. And this should delete itself, but for some reason, technology, you know how it is. Anyway, let's go to the next problem now that we've accomplished that one. Let's look at, using these tools is a lot of fun when you know what you're doing, but for some reason, I don't know what I'm doing. And I thought you could just hit delete, but I changed my pen color when I do that one, so let's just do a new slide. Let's see if we can put another slide out here. Oh, I know what we do. Undo. Now let's look at the next problem. So what if we had 19 equals m minus 24? Same type of equation, just rearranged. So it's the same process. We want to separate m from the problem. In this case, we have the opposite of 24. And with the opposite of 24, well, how do we get rid of it? That's all we have to ask ourselves is, how do we get rid of it? So this is what we'll do. We'll add the opposite this time. Add the opposite of 24 to both sides. Add 24. You know, when you work with an equation, you can kind of think of an equation as a canoe. You have to keep balance all the time. If there's not an equal size, it's not an equation. In this case, we have an equation because it equals something. Otherwise, it's called an expression. Now look what happens here. If I have $24 debt and I pay my debt with $24, I don't owe anything anymore, so this becomes a 0 and m drops down. Now I have to sum these together, so 9 and 4 is 13, carry the 1, so I end up with 43. And you can check these on your calculator. If you put 43 in here minus 24, you should get 19 equaling 19, which makes a true statement. So that's another type of equation that you can look at, and it's just perfectly fine to look at things that way. Now the next thing we're going to look at is another kind of equation. This time we have two variables. We have 4y minus 3y minus 6 equals 6. So in this case, what we have is, what do we do in the case of having two variables in our problem? Well, this is called combining like terms. In this case, we take the difference between. So it's kind of like looking at if we had y added to y, that's an add, added to y, added to y, that's 4 of them. Whoops, that's a y, sorry. And then if we subtract out this one, and this one, what do we have left? Well, in this case, we just have y left. Sorry for the little scribble. Whoops. So let's just get the screen cleared now that I explained that part of it. And I have to hit this before I can clean the screen. And let's say, now that we know that, we have y left. We have y left here, minus 6 equals 6. Now we're back to the kind of equation we had when we started. The simplest thing to do is to get the variable alone, and in this case, we want to get y by itself. In order to do that, if we add 6 to both sides, the sum then, y, this becomes a 0. See, the opposite of 6, add 6, I'm at 0 on the number line. So y equals, that's a plus 6, so now we have 12. Hopefully this has been helpful. We're going to continue to do these things. So just bear with me while I put the next equation up. Like I said, this is my very first time to do a podcast, so hopefully I can do it short enough that you'll have time to watch it on YouTube and understand what's going on. So now next we have 4 times, open the quantity of 6 minus 11, and we're going to close that quantity. Whoa, we didn't get it all. I guess we got to back up here. Start over. Clear. Okay, let's start over and get the problem correctly. I should be able to highlight and delete, and it doesn't want to cooperate. So there we go. Let's start over. Eventually I'll get the hang of this writing on the screen stuff and using Apple software. I'm not used to it. Okay, 4, open quantity, 6 minus 11, close that quantity, equals n minus 8. Okay, now let's look at what we have. The order of operations is part of this, so we have to do the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And you should be familiar with this. If you aren't, this means parentheses, braces, brackets, and square root, and I'm going to put it up here, the absolute value of a number. Then we have the base of a number raised to a power, exponents. Multiplication, division, which you do from the left to the right. And then, of course, we have and I can see that I messed something up already. That's not 83, but let me finish here. This is, I did it in red for this reason. It's left to right, but it's like a stop sign. It's the thing we do absolutely last when we have an equation. So I'm going to undo that 3 I put up there by accident. So the first step is this parentheses. So we have to put the 4 down here. We have to put the 4 down. And now, let's say it's 4 times what's left inside the parentheses. If I have $6 and I spend 11, I owe somebody some money. So see, the sign of this larger number stays here. It's opposite 5 equals n minus 8. Now we have to realize that this number is an odd number of symbols. So an odd number of these symbols, when we multiply only, is going to equal an odd sign. An even number of the same symbol, the opposite symbol, will always give me a positive, and it's a relationship thing. So the opposite times a positive is an opposite, and 5 times 4 is 20. Equals n minus 8. The next step is to get n alone. So how do we go ahead and get n alone? Let's look at it. This is our goal, get n on its own. Well, the other equations we looked at, well, if we add 8 to this side, that would become a 0. So if we add 8 to this side, we can look at what happens. On this side, we have n left. And on this side, we have a $20 debt we're going to pay on that debt. But the 20 is larger, so I know it's negative. Now, the difference between those two numbers is 12. Now, look at it. I have $20 of debt. I pay 8 on it. I still owe $12. You've been doing this on your mortgage, but it doesn't get down that low that quickly, of course. So that's how you have to look at it. If you use money, it seems to be the best thing that you can do. So I would suggest to use the money. So let's clear this stuff and do another problem that should be, let's just use the pen because for some reason the pen works better for me. Let's do 2x equals 24. This is division. This would be on the D and division, multiplication, division level. Okay? So here we go. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Now, because I taught in different settings and at a school with gangs in it, we had plenty of energetic monkeys do active sex. So however you want to remember it, you can. Make your own information, your own acronym. You know, this is the acronym, but make something up so you can remember it. Now we're at division. So the first step is to get rid of this. Now, in fractions, we learn that if we divide by the same number, we get 1. 1 times x is x. So if we do it on one side, it's an equation. We have to do it on the other. This becomes a 1. 1 times x is x. And how many times will 2 fit into 24? 12. So don't let these kinds of problems make you feel like you can't do them because they're not that hard. Let's look at another one. The opposite of 8y equals 56. Now, same thing, but this time we're taking the symbol with us. An opposite 8 and an opposite 8. Here we have two symbols, even rule, so they fall out, becomes 0 totally, so y is positive. In this case, I know there's an odd number, so I know it's going to be negative. 8 fits here 7 times. I hope this is helpful, that you're getting it. You know, it's not always easy. It takes a little bit of practice. The next thing in this chapter is exponents. So let's look at this. X times 4x to the 7th power times 6x to the 3rd power. All right. Now, the rule of exponents says anytime that I have exponents multiplied together, it's the sum of the exponents. But we have to do this too. We have to think, what is this number times this number? And this is a 1 in a hidden form because there's 1x. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. So that's the first piece. Now let's look at our x's. We have a x to the 1st power, 7th, and the 3rd. Well, in this case, I know that we're going to have the 1 added to the 7 added to the 3. So the total is 24x to the 11th power. This is just a power times this is not a power raised to a power,